Hi, AP students. We're here for our second part of some practice problems for the Unit 3 eventual exam. So let's go ahead and give you those problems here, and we'll give you a chance to get those knocked out. I'll show you how I answered them, and hopefully you're getting better at these things. Okay, so there's three of them here. Go ahead and pause it, take a picture with your phone, whatever. Write down, solve the problem. And again, don't think that, hey, listen, all these are the same, like we're doing all. That's true. There's only basically two types of things the economy can be going through if they're not at long run equilibrium. Okay, so you've got the obviously recessionary gap, inflationary gap. Those are the two things that can happen. So that's kind of good news, right? You get good at these. You don't have to be good at a bunch of stuff. You got to be good at just a couple different things. Okay, there's problem number two. And here is problem number three. All right, crossed off parts D and E. You've only got to do A, B, C, and F. All right. All right, we're going to get started right away with number one here because it is similar to the ones from previous videos. Okay, so let's roll here. You can do it along with me if you're super confused. If not, go ahead and pause it. Make sure you're doing the right stuff. So we've got an unemployment rate that is less than the natural employment rate. All right, so things are going well for us. So we've got to know that in this case, we're going to draw basically a inflationary gap. We're up ahead here. Okay, so make sure we're labeling all our stuff. We've got price level, we've got real GDP, we've got our current price level listed at PL1, we've got our output listed at Y1, we've got our natural full output at YF. Don't get in the bad habit of not labeling these things. I apologize again for my sloppiness. Okay, but that's where we are at. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so suppose that the investment spending on plant and equipment increases. On our graph, what's going to happen in that particular case in the short run? Well, investment spending has to do with GDP and demand for, our GDP formula and basically businesses' demand for stuff. So we're going to increase, okay, our aggregate demand. Things are going to get even more inflationary, so to speak. We're going to increase our price level. We're going to increase our output. Okay, so that is in the short run. Okay, so we show that. We can also write down y increases, price level increases. All right. What's one fiscal policy the government can do to restore full employment? Okay, well, they've only got two options. They can raise taxes or decrease spend. Okay, that's all they can do to restore full employment. Again, we're trying to go backwards, right? Oddly enough, the way we kind of fix inflation, remember, we're trying to take money out of people's pockets so we can raise taxes or decrease spending. Let's say we're not going to do anything, though. What's going to happen to our short run aggregate supply? Our aggregate supply is going to start moving back to the left. Okay, it's going to start moving back this way. Eventually, long time coming, it's going to eventually get back over here. We don't need to draw that. It's going to decrease to left due to too high of wages. That was a little more challenging. Hopefully you're starting to make a little bit of sense to you. You're starting to see a few more things. And again, kind of putting some tools in your tool belt as we start solving these. Let's look at the next one. We'll stick here together too. This one doesn't take nearly as long. All right. Another example of how they start kind of showing you some things that are, interrelated throughout the course of different units. So we've got our production possibilities curve. Here's what we got to remember. Our production possibilities curve represents our long run aggregate supply curve, okay, for everything that we're talking about. So this is our full employment. This is our full resources, okay? So that's the one thing we can use from that. All right. So the production of which following exhibits increasing opportunity, the production of which following exhibits increasing opportunity cost, consumer goods, capital goods, or neither good. Give me a quick second here. Oh, sorry. I read it. Both goods, right? If I move from here to here, right, I give up this many consumer goods to gain that many capital goods. If I move from here to here, I give up many more capital goods to than I do consumer goods. So it's both. The curved line always shows both. I apologize for that. All right, redraw the given graph above. All right, we'll redraw this thing. Don't really need to, but they asked us to. We labeled things. All right. We're going to show our efficiently used resources and label it A. That is anywhere on this line. Okay, I'm going to label it A. Okay. Identify or assume there's a recession in Fisherland on your part in part B. Label C as a recession. We're not producing as much, right? That might be because of unemployment. That might be because low demand. Whatever. We're not producing as much. We've done that. Identify a fiscal policy that Fisherland government can also take to address the recession. Okay, we're going to try to increase demand. Low taxes. Seems like we've heard that a lot. Increase spending. One or the other. Again, they only have two options. If nothing happens, what's going to happen to our short run aggregate supply? This is the tricky part because we don't see this graph, right? And they make us kind of remember what's going on with just using this concept here. The short run aggregate supply with no policy actions, the short run aggregate supply is going to increase. Okay, lower wages, same stuff. You could draw that whole long run equilibrium graph if you wanted to and be able to see, what was going on. But you don't need to. Okay, lower wages. Again, increase lower wages. All right, take a shot at this third one here. I'm going to pause the video and let you kind of work it out before I show you what to do. All right, make sure we draw our graph out first. It's going to help us through. Ignore D and E. Go ahead and take a shot at it. All right, moving forward here on this last one. Hopefully you took a good shot at it. Don't get too discouraged if you're missing some. We're still practicing. Email me with questions. You're going to get better at them, I promise. First things first, let's know what we're drawing. So we've got below full employment. We're in this recessionary gap graph here. Okay, I've got everything labeled. I've got Y1, PL1. I've got my full employment. I'm knocking out some easy points. I shouldn't be missing any of those points there. All right, we're going to ignore the balanced budget part. It's going to play a role in a different unit, but that has to do with D and E. We're not going to worry about that too much right now. So for our United States government increasing spending on goods and services. Now, we don't have to know the number how much, but we're going to use this number later. What's that going to do? Okay, well, that's going to increase our aggregate demand. It doesn't tell us to draw it, but our aggregate demand is going to increase, which means we're going to output more stuff, which means we're going to hire more people. So cyclical unemployment, the stuff that's caused by recessions, cyclical unemployment is going to decrease. It doesn't even ask us to explain it. All right. The natural rate of unemployment, this never, ever changes. Okay. It's not effective. It never changes. We're always going to assume that our natural rate of unemployment is going to be, that frictional unemployment where people are not looking that people are choosing to be unemployed, right? Looking for a job because they graduate, looking for a job because their kids go to school and now it's time to go back to work, looking for a new job. Okay, so that is never going to be affected. It doesn't have us explain it. It gives us here the marginal propensity to consume, which we can take the marginal propensity to save as being 0.25. Our multiplier is 1 over marginal propensity to save, which is 1 over 0.25, which is 4. Okay, so it says, what is the that could result? What is the real change in GDP if we had this $100 billion increase in spending? Multiply this by 100 billion equals $400 billion. All right. Part D and E, long story short, what they're going to have you do is when the government has to borrow money, they're going to increase their demand for loanable funds. We don't know that yet. So that's going to raise the interest rate on loans for you and I. And eventually we're going to be able to borrow less money. And our long-run economic growth rate is going to decrease because interest rates are higher. We haven't learned that yet, but it is a little bit of a foreshadowing. All right, part F, it asks us, okay, well, let's say we're going to lower taxes instead. Sorry, it says we're going to raise taxes instead. I did this incorrectly. I apologize. Okay, we're still going to use this tax multiplier, which is 3. I guess I hadn't solved it yet. Okay, and it says, okay, what's going to happen if we increase taxes by 100 billion? We can figure out the same thing. How much is that going to affect our real GDP? Well, our tax multiplier is still 3, so it's going to decrease by 300 billion. So we can work it in the opposite as well, in the opposite way. Now, I did not read this question as close. That is not stuff that'll be on there for you to begin, because we have not talked about government spending by borrowing yet. So, but if you got that, awesome. I misread it the first time. Learn your lesson from me. Make sure you read things a whole lot closer than just one quick little time to make sure that you're trying to save time. So anyway, hopefully those are your answers. If you have questions, by all means, email me. We'll see you soon.